Welcome to Your Life and Legacy, where we explore how to live with purpose, lead with integrity, and leave a meaningful impact for generations to come. I'm your host, Christopher Nudo. Today, I'm joined by a remarkable guest, Douglas Wick. Doug is a business coach, broadcaster, and executive with over 40 years of experience in sales, leadership, and business growth. As founder of Positioning Systems and a certified E-Myth and Gazelles coach, he has helped guide over 250 companies towards greater success. He is also a survivor of acute myeloid leukemia, which fuels his passion for resilience, faith, and leaving a lasting legacy. In this first segment, we're talking about something many leaders struggle with: shifting from doing to strategizing. Too often, leaders spend all their time caught up in tasks and never step back to think or plan. Hey, Doug, welcome to the show. And I'm really excited to dive into this with you.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here. Appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity.
The challenge, Doug, is for many leaders, they feel trapped in constant busyness, which leaves them no room for vision or any type of long-term growth. So why is it so hard for leaders to step back and really start strategizing? Why are they getting in their own way is really, I think, what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think many of us believe that we're only valuable when we're doing things. And so we get caught up in the idea that we're here to solve problems. And so the doing of tasks and solving things feels really good. And so in that, and for many of us, there's a step that we need to take and realize that that's not our responsibility. Our responsibility now is to hire people that know how to make decisions and solve those problems. And our job as a leader is to provide the envisioned future. And the only way you can do that is to step back and take time to think, to plan, and to really strategize with an idea of what that's going to look like in the future. They just they keep responding to interruptions because there is a short-term gratification of getting tasks done and seeing their responses get action taken. But in terms of the long-term journey, that's not going to get the business to where it needs to go. They need to leave that to other leaders that they've hired to be able to do that. And they need to focus on the future and where this business is going to be in 3 to 5 years. And otherwise, it's not going to happen. It won't happen. And they're only going to get frustrated. And I think, all of us have been into that situation when I can remember starting several businesses. It doesn't take long, and you just get stuck in the repetitive nature of what you're doing, and you forgot about what was that vision that I wanted to create. So we need to do that either monthly or quarterly, and definitely annually, in order to set the path for people to know with confidence where are we going.
Boy, I can relate to everything you said there, especially about the short-term gratification that you get from getting the I'm going to call them brush fires in life out of the way versus staying focused on the journey. So how do you really take a client and get them out of the busyness of day to day? Like, so what are the practical things that you'll say to help them be able to see the forest through the trees, as many would say?
Yeah, I just started a new platform, which is from Dr. Joe Dispenza, which is called Change Your Mind, Create New Results. I think most of us aren't really aware, self-aware, that that's what's happening. And part of it is because that addictive nature that we have. And again, I think people see addiction as, maybe alcohol or other things but they don't realize that what they're really being addicted to is that adrenaline rush they get, that quick adrenaline rush that they get from solving somebody else's problems or from the interruption itself. And so that's the first thing that has to happen with a leader is simply self-awareness. And in most cases, it takes something like maybe this training, Change Your Mind, Create New Results, which is about 13, 14 hours of dedication to understanding that change first starts with being self-aware, because 95% of by the time we're 35, 95% of what we do every day is the same thing we did yesterday. We're not even aware that we're continually doing the same things over and over and not focusing on our envisioned future. That's what we need to do
How,
to get change
how,
to
mu-
happen.
how many people come to you already self-aware, who have, versus you need to really point it out to them that they're stuck in a rut?
I would almost say, Chris, to you that the only people that come to me that want to work together are at least self-aware enough to know that's what I'm doing. Doug, I don't know how to get out of this. I'm stuck in this pattern of doing it, doing it, doing it, as Michael Gerber said in his book, the E-Myth Revisited, Why Most Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. And the same thing is true, I think, with any size business. We're just addicted and we don't even realize it. So if they have come to me, in many cases, they are self-aware enough to know, listen, I need to break this pattern. I can't continue to do it. I need help in managing and leading my business better than I am doing right now currently. So the fact that they're probably contacting me is a good sign to begin with. Yeah.
Excellent. Yes. Makes perfect sense. So as we wrap up this segment here, what are some simple steps that anyone can take to move from what we've been talking about, this busyness rut, to being very intentional? What's just a couple simple steps that people can start to take?
Well, in all the work that I've done, we always talk about meeting rhythms, daily huddles, weekly meetings with your leadership team, monthly meetings, quarterly meetings, annual planning. Those types of things allow for, if you set the right agenda, they allow that time to be dedicated toward observing how are we doing, what are we focused on, what's our priority, are we making progress toward those priorities, and also then because you're setting time for quarterly meetings and annual meetings, you're intentionally working at the process of working on the business. It's been said some of your people
Now,
will do your best their best time looking out the window. Well, that should be the job of the CEO or the leader, is spending time contemplating where are we going.
and I understand the checkup meetings and the quarterly meetings, but my question would be, how many people show up at a quarterly meeting and they've just run through their rut of things they normally do, and they show up and they're like, I can't believe we're here planning another refocusing meeting, and they haven't done anything for the last 3 months because just they can't break the cycle.
Yeah, I think again, that's a challenge, particularly if it's the leader that's not done his homework. And again, if you don't have a coach, are you are you reflecting? Are you the coach's job really should be to ask questions for of the leader to make sure you're spending that time. You're either that is in those coaching sessions, or it's time where he has taken and reflected. I think Bill Gates and several others have taken a full week and take all that information that they're getting and just separate themselves from their team, from their job duties at work, and just absorb all that and think. but most leaders don't value that. Again, they're focused on getting tasks completed and assigning work to others rather than thinking about the future. And I think, I've read some articles where less than 10% of people are prepared, of leaders are prepared for AI. And most of that is because they're simply not taking the time to invest in themselves and their business and think about the business. And so all those things are collapsing and moving ahead without them because they're just not simply taking time to consider and reflect on their leadership and where they're taking the company.
I want to continue that conversation, but right now, Doug, we'll be right back, and we're going to talk with Doug on why big decisions feel overwhelming and how faith and clarity can guide leaders through them. Welcome back to Your Life and Legacy. Want more of what you're watching? Stay connected to Your Life and Legacy and every Now Media TV favorite, live or on demand anytime you like. Download the free Now Media TV app on Roku or iOS and unlock nonstop bilingual programming in English and Spanish. On the move? You can catch the podcast version right from our website, nowmedia.tv. From business and news to lifestyle, culture, and beyond, Now Media TV is streaming around the clock, ready wherever you are. Hi, I'm here with business coach and leadership expert Douglas Wick. In this segment, we're tackling something many leaders wrestle with: decisions that overwhelm. When every choice feels too big, it can lead to paralysis and fear of failure. Doug, let's talk about why decision-making can feel so heavy for leaders.
It's funny because in preparing for this, I looked. The E-Myth had a specific general process on decision making, and in that booklet, it actually said there are 4 factors that make business decisions difficult. First of all, a lack of information. Second, timing between the differences and alternatives. The third is uncertainty about the possible outcomes of that decision. And then the fourth is a decision maker who has a indecisive personality. And so if you can you can solve the first 3, a lot of times the fourth one kind of disappears, of course. But I think when you look at lack of information, what's the difference between the alternatives in terms of timing, and then what's the uncertainty about the possible outcome? That's what makes decision making difficult. And I think the other thing, if people reflect on one of the armies, maybe you're familiar with this. I think the armed services have a philosophy or an axiom that says no decision is worse than a decision. And a lot of times I think business leaders don't think that. Sometimes they feel that being indecisive is better than making a decision. And there's actually a book, I think, called Jolt, which talks about the fact that in most situations, a lot of people are just not making a decision today. Over 50% of sales process decisions just don't get made, rather than are made because people are indecisive and feel that staying the status quo is better than moving ahead and making a decision that might make me look bad. So
interesting in that, as you were saying that, I was thinking about, your resume, and, I'm just going to read it here. You have your Dale Carnegie certification, You have a certified eMyth consultant, designated senior eMyth consultant, certified Gazelle's business coach. I'm probably saying that wrong. And 3 Hag Way metronomics certification. So in all of those certifications, what's interesting is, as you were explaining this, I was waiting for you to say that making no decision is a decision in and of itself. How does that play into it?
Well, it simply is a matter of that not making a decision means you're indecisive, right? You're afraid of the consequences of making a decision, and so that means I'm happy with the status quo. And we both know that saying no to something is much better than just not making a decision at all. And so
To
I
ignoring
think,
it completely.
yeah, you're you're seeming to be oblivious to what's going on, and that's not a good place to be for certain, with everything that's going on.
One of the things, that's right. So one of the things we talked about yesterday that I really think plays a big part in everybody's life is faith. And so as you've been coaching and living your life, how has faith impacted how you approach things and the decisions you make?
In my case, at least, the faith involves having a good relationship with God or the Father. I'm Christian, so what Christ is talking about, I believe that alone just gives you a foundation that makes you feel much better about yourself, and the confidence that if I'm, in my case, praying, I meditate every day at least an hour or more, which I believe strengthens my connection with God. And so in that process, I ask God for help in decision making. And if it's still cloudy, I don't make a decision. But in most cases, what happens in that meditation, I can ask God for help and input, and I become more decisive because I feel like I get answers and get the direction I should be going toward, and in doing so, that gives me the confidence, and it gives me confidence I believe that other people can see as well by being able to do that. So, um, if you've got the fundamentals of faith, then it just gives you much more confidence in your ability and your direction that you're going. I don't know how else to explain it.
I believe that's true. No, that's excellent. And, one of the things that I don't want to ignore in your story is the fact that you're a survivor, a cancer survivor of leukemia. And, based on what the information that you and I discussed, your odds of surviving this leukemia were practically zero. My notes say 2%, which, is darn near zero in my book. So, but here you are, right? We're talking to Douglas Wick, and you have survived, and I know faith played a big part in it. Take us for a few minutes down that
I had a
journey.
doctor. This is after I went through 5 chemotherapies, and the only option was clinical trial. A doctor had said to my wife and myself at the time that at some point, she said, you decide to spend the time you have remaining with your family. And it actually made me upset that she would say that. I didn't say anything to her in front of my wife at the time, but it just made me upset because I don't know, I never believed that I was going to die. And that was a fatalistic view in my mind. And I proceeded to the clinical trial. I actually meditated immediately after that. And I can remember at that point asking, God in my meditation, what was I doing wrong? Because there was a process that Dr. Joe Dispenza had laid out in the process that followed another a key that I had, which was how to cross your Red Sea that a minister had provided for me. And so I felt like in that meditation, I got an answer. And I can remember, what the answer was to feel more what the outcome was going to be. But I also remember asking myself, how's God going to do this? How is God going to solve this? And then I also realized part of the explanation in how to cross the Red Sea was my job wasn't to create it. My job was to design it. It was to feel as if God is interceding, and God would provide that, and miraculously he did. So I feel like our job is be to fall in love with the process, and in the event of falling in love with the process, that's when the breakthrough occurs. And I'm here. This is 13 years
You
later.
are.
Yeah, due to just
Praise
falling in
God
love
for
with
that.
falling in love with the process and trusting that God was going to deliver me through that process. Yeah.
So I know you have a couple of boys, or three, I think, right?
Yes.
And all grown now, and a wife. So how has family really? How has your children and everything that you've been through really come together and culminated in the successes that you've had?
Unfortunately, I lost my wife about 2 years after the divorce, and I had a very challenging situation. Just 9 days after she left, my youngest son tried to commit suicide. It was a very difficult time for both of us because of I think his loss of his mother moving away to Florida, and he and I weren't that close at the time, but indeed after that, that's what that incident brought us together and made me closer to him closer to me. I the next until just recently, a lot of my dedication, my desire to do well was spurred by my dedication to him, and making sure I was being a good father to him. And he's done extremely well. He's just started his residency in St. Paul.
Yeah, so a doctor nonetheless. And you shared with me how what I considered to be a real tragedy in how the Lord really used it in your family as really a stepping stone to something beautiful between you and your son.
Yeah, I think many times we look at the challenges or the drama or whatever in our life as uh, an obstacle, when indeed I don't believe God puts anything into our life unless we're here to learn something from it, and taking
Amen to
accountability.
that.
Yeah, taking accountability for I accepted the responsibility that I was responsible for having um, somehow acquired cancer. Okay, if I was responsible for it coming into my life, then I could be responsible for also curing it, or in
That's right.
this. Yeah, that
So,
I could do things to work toward, and God would provide a solution. Same thing with my son. Yeah.
and he has, right?
Yes.
It's a
Yeah.
testimony.
Yeah.
So I know that viewers are going to want to learn much more about you and your work and your coaching. So where can they connect with you, Doug?
uh, I've got a blog. It's strategicdiscipline.positioningsystems.com. They can contact me, or just simply call me 319-393-2565, or my email is dwick@positioningsystems.com. Simple.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Listen, coming up next, we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about growth, specifically how to build a business without burning yourself out in the process. Welcome back to Your Life and Legacy. I'm continuing my conversation with business coach Doug Wick. Let's talk about growth because so many leaders chase speed and expansion but end up burning out. Doug, you've seen how this affects both businesses and their leaders. Let's unpack why slowing down can actually create stronger growth. So really, let's talk about that. Let's sustainability versus moving fast. What have you seen, and how do we adjust for that?
Well, again, a lot of some leaders actually are too deliberate, and that's not good either. But I think that in today's society, there's a tendency because of how Amazon next day delivery and our phones provide everything we need right at our fingertips. We have a tendency to be very compulsive about getting results. And the issue becomes that, again, if you don't have an envisioned future, now people that have envisioned futures perhaps can make better decisions because they know where they're going. They see that future. But if you don't have that, you're kind of making things up as you go along. So if you
So
don't,
for our audience, define that term, envisioned future. Unpack that for us a
yeah,
little bit.
Cameron Herold talks about it in a couple of his books. Um, uh, there, it's really being deliberate about what does this not only feel like, what does it look like? How do we treat our customers? How do we treat our employees? What is our revenue growth? What is our profit margins? All those things that completely give you the feeling that this business is delivering both to our customers and to our employees an outcome that is not only sustainable, but it's clear to everybody in the organization what it looks like. And if you don't have that, how do people know how to treat employees, how to treat customers? Once you have that in a clear and concise way, and you are delivering a purpose that is intentional, and with intention, that's the, your employees, your customers all know that. It's like a promise that you're delivering that both your employees and your customers can share, that they live and believe in, and it provides that long-term sustainable growth for your business because you're clear about it. Your customers and your employees are also living and providing that envisioned future for yourself and the business.
So, what are some of the signs that you note when a business leader is starting to burn out versus you see them living a healthy lifestyle of sustainability?
There's a really good book that I would encourage everybody to read. It's The One Thing, and he talks about the very first thing all of us should do is plan our vacations, 2 or 3
Oh,
weeks.
I'm on board. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do that. I think that most of us live in stress. 70% of our days are spent in stress, and so we keep responding to interruptions, coworkers, whatever it takes. But if you plan your vacations, you plan time, and I mean time that is invested in completely being apart. I know people say they take vacations, but a lot of times they're involved in responding to emails at night or taking phone calls while they're on vacation. That to me is not a vacation. A vacation should be
Can I ask you a question in
sure.
that regard? Let me. I want to interrupt and ask a question. So, there's this tension, right, in business where somebody will go on vacation, and as you just said, will designate, a half hour every night or in the morning, or maybe an hour to take a phone call or to clear emails or both, and the philosophy behind that is, well, you know what? I'm staying on top of things so that when I come back, I don't come back to this, mountain of untaken care of things. Contrast that with your approach of completely unplugging.
Well, the value of being able to completely unplug, really, from the concept of uh, taking that 4 days or 5 days or whatever it is where you completely unplug. I would suggest to you every time that you do that, you're going to get a breakthrough in your business. In fact, because the way our minds work, whatever things that were you were focused on when you were working, the opportunity to take that time off invariably allows you to be in creation mode during that 4 to 5 days that you're taking off. And what you're going to find is sometime during that vacation, you're going to get an idea. And the idea is invariably going to be so perfect for solving a problem that you have in your business, you're going to be amazed. And writing that down, okay, go for it. Do it, write it down, write down that solution that you came up with. And what you're going to find when you come back, you're going to be so able to see your business in a new light and then take that idea and apply it to your business. That 4 to 5 days or week, whatever it is that you're able to take off and come back, is going to be so much more valuable to your business than staying grinding away and continually being in stress. You're going to come back. It's going to be a breath of fresh air. Your employees, your people are all going to see the difference, and then you can apply those ideas to your business. And invariably, if you can take 4 to 5 times three times a year, where you take 4 to 5 days consecutively off without thinking about your business, you're going to come up with at least 3 breakthroughs in your business as well that are going to serve to help propel your business into the future because of the time you've taken off.
So I can envision, honestly, the next question as it relates to this topic, and that is going to be those people pleasers out there, right? And a lot of business owners are people pleasers. That's why they're successful. They make people feel good, and they're successful in what they do. So they say, Doug, but you don't understand. I'm going to disappoint so many people if I disconnect and I go on a vacation and I'm just not available. How do you help those people?
The first person that has to be happy is you. And if you're continually focusing on other people, I'm going to suggest to you, you are not making yourself happy. You first have to make yourself happy. And that means disconnecting and satisfying that ability to just disconnect, think about your future, take time off from the busyness of work. And again, the way the creative process works is that when you have a problem, your mind is, thinking about that problem constantly. And when you're in the busyness of working, it can't do that. When you take the break, that's when it starts to work on and solve that problem. And only when you are able to disconnect do you allow your brain to be able to take the time to solve that problem and give yourself, in that relaxing time, the ability to break through. So I don't think, if somebody hasn't been able to do that, they're not going to know the end result of it. But almost invariably, anybody who has taken time off and taken creativity. I worked in radio for a long time, and one of the things we found is when you had a problem that a client wanted, and you wanted to create a message in radio, we could do some really creative things. Taking a day or two and then coming back and working, then coming back to it. A lot of times that day or two that you took off, the idea came to you and you had a brilliant idea for them to create a commercial, and it invariably was powerful enough that it solved the solution or provided the solution to the idea. Very creative ideas that we came up with that oftentimes were much better than just writing a commercial based on being stressed and having to solve that problem that day.
And I love that, because I assume by stepping back, we're creating what many seek but never find, and that's balance in life.
Yeah.
And so, and adding that faith component, like, when did you start meditating and adding faith into your daily life, which then, evolved into this vacation regiment, disconnection, and now balance? Quickly, for our viewers, just tell us, when did that happen and how long have you been doing it for?
Well, probably I'm old enough. 1990s is when I started the process of meditating and taking time off, and got a solution that was incredible in my personal life. And then, frankly, I kind of forgot, and it took, unfortunately, a very challenging year. It was 2011. I hit some very important goals, but in the process, I believe, created the stress that caused my cancer. And ever since 2012, going through that in the hospital where I had, to overcome the cancer, I've been meditating at least an hour a day ever since that time. And I believe it's helped keep at bay any health problems that I've ever had. It's just a matter of dedicating every morning when I get up. The first thing I do, unless I have a meeting at 6 a.m., which I invariably do once a week, but in most cases at 5 a.m. or 5:30, I meditate for an hour and 15 minutes. And it's provided, I think, the time to dedicate toward my faith, my relationship with God, and keep most of the problems that I've had with health at bay, or invariably been keeping me connected with God, and the opportunity then to relax and get opportunities to get results beyond the stress of most days. In fact, anytime.
So that's really the secret. And you heard it here first. Doug Wick comes up with the secret to the balance of life, and I love that, Doug. Thank you. Right now, we're going to be right back just in a couple minutes. In our final segment, Doug and I will talk about the passing of the torch and why mentorship, succession, and legacy planning matter more than ever. Hey, welcome back to Your Life and Legacy. Don't miss a second of this show or any of your Now Media TV favorites, streaming live and on demand wherever and wherever you want. Grab your free Now Media TV app on Roku or iOS and enjoy instant access to our lineup of bilingual programs in both English and Spanish. Do you prefer podcasts? Listen to Your Life and Legacy anytime on the Now Media TV website at nowmedia.tv. It covers business, breaking news, lifestyle, culture, and more. Now Media TV is available 24/7, so the stories you care about are always within reach. For our closing segment, Doug Wick and I will explore one of the most important but often avoided topics: succession and legacy planning. Passing the torch can really feel scary, but it's essential for building something that lasts beyond our lifetimes. Doug, really, this is so dear to my heart as a business owner. The challenge is that leaders often don't prepare for who's going to lead after them, putting both their business and their own legacy really at risk. So, how do you approach this with a business owner so they can start thinking about the fact that when they're gone, their business can still have legs and continue?
The the place to start, I think, is in that meeting rhythm. One of the things that I think helps business owners, um, because most of us don't, I had cancer. I didn't think I was going to die. Most leaders don't think they're going to die or don't prepare for succession. So, a way to begin that process is the meeting rhythm that we recommend in scaling up and
Unpack
metronomics
that
and
for
so on.
us.
The,
Unpack the meeting rhythm for us.
yeah, the meeting rhythm is that idea of a daily huddle, a weekly meeting, a monthly meeting, quarterly meeting, annual planning. In that process, the mentorship or the process of learning starts to develop from the standpoint leaders in the organization see this is how we plan, this is how we look forward to the business succeeding beyond us, because we're doing weekly meetings, daily huddles, quarterly meetings, annual meetings, monthly meetings. There is a process to how our business looks at the future and plans for the future. And that meeting process is established and allows the leaders in the organization to see this is how we plan, this is how we make decisions, this is how we look toward the future. So that element itself provides that ability to train leaders how we go about the process of planning and building a business and creating a future for the business. So that in alone will give those people the feeling of being immersed in the planning and succession of the business as well.
I love how you describe training leaders and helping leaders understand. There is a constant in the way you say things, and that constant is the fact that the people you're working with are leaders. What do you say to the business owner that says, Doug, but you don't understand, I'm the leader, they're the employees. I don't like, who's this other leader we're training up?
There's a very good book I'd recommend that those people read, which is called What to Ask the Person in the Mirror. It it provides a lot of those questions that most leaders don't think about that need to be answered. If that person believes that I'm the leader and I'm the only one leading this organization and that there's no succession, I'm afraid they
They're
maybe
probably
not.
right.
Yeah, they're probably not going to. They're maybe not going to need my help or consult me for my help, because that's fatalistic in my view, and not believing that they need somebody that is a succession. I'm too good to know, to be. I'm not replaceable. That's a rather poor.
That's fatal.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. And so I think anybody that is not looking toward the future and the fact that they are replaceable and that somebody can lead them, the best person in a organization to lead for succession is the leader, as long as he realizes there are people that know things more than I do. I'm not the smartest person in the room. And if you're the smartest person in the room, maybe you ought to get out of there, because that's I'd call it, what is that pill that's going to eventually lead to the business failing, unfortunately. Yeah.
It's your cyanide pill.
Yeah. Thank you.
What role does family values and faith play in choosing a successor? You know, the way I'm thinking of this question is really, is the successor a mirror image of the leader, or is the successor somebody who complements the leader? Is it something in the middle? Like, you have plenty of years with plenty of businesses, big and small. Tell me, define the successor and what it looks like, and what should a current business owner be looking for in their successor?
There's Gallup did some work on strengths-based leadership, and interestingly enough, there was no leader that had, in other words, you'd think, okay, well, a leader should have this, this, and this. There was no leader, one precise leader that had all these characteristics. It was a combination of things. And what a leader needs to be aware of is that in an organization, there are people that are good at certain things and others that are good at other things. And it's not one thing that makes a leader, it's a combination. And that in a leadership team, those capacities for leadership are balanced. In other words, somebody might be very good at, leading people and being very aware of that. Somebody might be very good at strategy. Somebody might be very good at execution. One of my companies that was probably the most successful had probably too many people on his leadership team. He had about a dozen, and what he found at one point was that the business wasn't executing very well. And he says, I've got a lot of good people, but nobody's executing. So what we did was we actually took the strength-based leadership process that Gallup had. We went through the process of scoring them in their leadership capabilities. And the leaders that were good at executing, we put together with leaders who were good at other aspects of the business. And immediately that year, they did about a 35% improvement in their business because they were matching people that were good at executing with people that were good at other parts of the organization. And that helped, the business leader who was not good at executing combined with somebody who was good at executing, and the business just took off very, very well. The indicator, I think, of a good business is being aware of people's strengths and weaknesses. And if they can be aware of their strengths and combine those people with other people that have other good strengths, that catapults a business to growth because they're looking at the strengths of a business and making sure that those people are contributing most to the business by focusing on their strengths.
You really point out the fact that this big leadership team had many different types of leaders, and it was breaking up the leadership team into the leaders that could execute on a plan versus the leaders that could develop the plan. And there's probably some other characteristics of that leadership too, but understanding which leaders' strengths were part of that leadership team moved the whole leadership team forward.
Yeah, and that was one of he is one of the companies that has had amazing success. I talked to him about 3 or 4 months ago. I think we talked to him. He developed a process in his car wash for focusing on return customers and getting them to buy memberships. His whole business developed based on finding out that the customers that were the most valuable customers, in fact, 10 times more profitable than any other customer, were people that were membership customers. And so the whole business focused on this idea of let's get more people buying memberships. And he also focused on customer satisfaction. He hired a company out of India to call his customers after they had gone through the car wash and find out what's your satisfaction level. And what he discovered was when his customers were at it was called NPS score, Net Promoter Score of 58%. Each car wash that reached that level was very profitable. And at that point, he knew his business was on safe ground. And I think I mentioned to you, in our discussion yesterday, when I talked to him, he said every month uh, before the month starts, because of my membership with my customers, he has about $1 million in revenue that comes into his business.
Now we know where the car wash membership concept came from, that is now all over the place, everywhere you go.
Yeah, he's.
Doug, this has been incredible.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I just love our conversation and the information that you've provided for our viewers. Tell our viewers one more time how they can follow you and work with you and continue this conversation.
My blog is strategicdiscipline.positioningsystems.com. It's on HubSpot. They can contact me at dwick@positioningsystems.com or call me at 319-393-2565, Chris. And I'm blessed to be here and blessed to have had the opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to be on your show.
I want to thank you, Doug, for sharing your wisdom and your journey with us today. What stood out in our conversation is that true leadership isn't just about success in the movement. It's about strategy and clarity in decisions and sustainable growth and preparing the next generation. To our viewers, I encourage you to reflect on your own legacy. Are you building something that lasts or simply keeping busy? Remember, your life, your faith, and your values can shape the impact you leave behind. I'm Christopher Nudo, and this has been Your Life and Legacy. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and keep building a legacy worth passing on.